Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we can have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as it is looking fairly unsettled through the next 24 to 48 hours with some weather fronts pushing in from the west, but we're likely to see the settled weather return by Friday into the weekend as the high pressure does build back. Temperatures will generally be around average for the time of year over the next few days, generally in the low teens to mid-teens perhaps in the day, and overnight temperatures will be relatively cool, especially where we do see clearer skies develop, where we could continue to see more frosts, but those do look likely to be cut out for the next 48 hours or so, while we have these areas of rain and cloud moving in. As we head into the longer range, look at the GFS, GM, Eastern WF and the ensembles. We still have quite a bit of uncertainty as we head into the middle of April. We've been thinking perhaps that we were going to be seeing some southerly winds perhaps developing for the middle of the month, a squeeze between the low pressure in the Atlantic and the high pressure over Europe. Now today the GFS and the GM are sort of bolstering that low pressure effort and actually turn us more from a west to southwesterly. So still probably would be fairly mild, but wouldn't be as high pressure dominated, so would have probably some quite mild or warm days, but would have a lot of rain around as well. Whereas the Eastern WF still has that high pressure in control. So there is quite a bit of uncertainty as we head into the middle of the month. We'll just have to keep an eye on what the runs are showing and sort of try and follow their sort of patterns and what the ensembles are showing too. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So if you start on the live radar, you can see a few bands of precipitation moving in. Sort of a first band through the Irish Sea now, which is sort of degrading away, but now a second weather front is pushing into parts of the Western Republic of Ireland, and that is going to be becoming quite a significant feature over the course of the next 24 hours as it does move in and give some quite heavy rain through this evening into tomorrow and perhaps lingering into Thursday in the far east. But as I said, it should only be temporary, about 24 to 48 hours before it should clear, and we should go a little bit drier and a little bit sunnier once again in towards the weekend. Now, to do put on the temperatures, as of just before 11 a.m, again, it's not a particularly warm day, quite a cold start once again down towards freezing overnight, and you can see still across parts of Europe, still down towards freezing. With those lighter blues, but for the UK we're seeing darker blues and yellows now build in, again indicating temperatures in the high single digits, if not into the low double digits. But again, probably won't climb all too much higher. Will be a relatively chilly feeling out there, but of course we got the sunshine, so it does make it feel warm, at least through the middle of the day. So if you're outside, if you're in the sun, it will feel pretty decent. But again, in the shade, a bit of cloud builds in, a little bit of a breeze picks up, it will feel pretty chilly out there. So do take that into mind when you are planning things through the rest of the day and into the weekend, as we do have very similar conditions then. Now, if you look over to the UKV and see what that is showing, you can see that weather front earlier today degrading away, and through the rest of today that weather front does make more progression, and it does really start to build in through tonight, where it does start to give some more heavier rain in places. Most of the rain should be light to moderate, but you can see there are a few heavier pulses with some brighter colours, and then into Wednesday, once again more rain pushing through. So tomorrow does look like a bit of a washout for areas in the west, but hopefully for parts of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, it should clear through the afternoon, really, through Wales, northern and southwestern England. However, into the later afternoon into the evening, it should clear further eastwards, and we should start to see more rain develop further eastwards into parts of London area, perhaps East Anglia and the southeast. And then you can see into early hours of Thursday, it does slowly start to clear, but there could be a few heavy, maybe even thundery showers lingering through the morning into the afternoon, as we are still under lower pressure. So it could be a bit of a more unsettled afternoon there through Thursday, but could be some more sunshine around as the sort of wall of rain does clear and it just goes into more sunshine and showers. Beyond that, into Friday, the high pressure should return, and look at that, it's much drier into Friday, very similar to what we have now, maybe a few showers in places, but nothing too bad, and that is similar into the weekend, into Saturday and into Sunday, as weather fronts do try and approach, but still gently under the higher pressure. Could be a bit more cloud though, unfortunately, but again, we'll have to firm up on those details nearer the time. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see through this afternoon, temperatures may be peaking around that 10 to 13 degree mark. Again, not particularly warm, but not particularly cool equally. Through tonight, again, it could be a frost in the far south and east, wherever we do avoid the cloud. So again, that will be very much dependent on cloud building in, and we'll have to see what happens in sort of when we look at the live radar. And then if we end up through Wednesday afternoon, again, temperatures, again, pretty cold under that rain band, maybe only 5 to 10 degrees, elsewhere 11 or 12. And then into Thursday, it should be a little bit sunnier into the afternoon. You can see the temperatures are reflecting that a little bit, slightly higher, more maybe towards that 12 to 14 degree mark. But again, areas where we've got some thicker cloud, maybe only struggling around that 8 or 9 degree mark. Into Friday, could be a frost in a few spots once again, as we have clearer skies, temperatures dropping, so very similar to what we've had over the last few days. And then into Friday afternoon, again, more of a widely 12 to 14 degrees, so quite decent there, but again, nothing special. And then finally into Saturday, again, could be cool overnight in places, and then into the afternoon, once again, 13 or 14 degrees, so on the upwards trend perhaps into the weekend, but again, nothing too special at this stage. Now, if you do look at the longer range now, look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles, you can see the high pressure build in at the moment. Brief westerly flow there as that low moves in, but then the high pressure builds back in into early part of next week. This is where we see a bit of uncertainty towards day 7, because the low pressure here dominates from the GFS. It comes in quite a severe low there and sort of sits over the top of us. It could still bring warm southwesterly flows in, but it actually goes pretty unsettled, and perhaps in the longer range, a bit of an Atlantic ridge, and maybe even cooler air masses in from the north. Again, you wouldn't expect anything too cold. It is the middle of April, but not particularly pleasant. You can see there are briefly warmer air masses up from the southwest at times, so could see a mid to maybe high teens there at the best, but really not too great. Disappointing seeing now westerlies breaking through that high pressure over Europe, as I was looking forward to perhaps a bit more of a warmer, drier spell, which a lot of the models were hinting at over the past few days. But GFS definitely looks like it is deviating here on its latest run. Of course, it could be an anomaly, and we'll just have to keep an eye on that, especially as we head into tomorrow's video too. Now, if you have a look at the GM, see how that does compare. Again, high pressure building in at the moment. Continue to stay in control over the weekend after that brief blip of lower pressure. And you can see the low out on the Atlantic is breaking through, and it does break through, and it does try and shove the high away. And as I said at the start of the video, GM does that successfully. It is a more of a west to southwesterly flow, so hopefully it should encourage some of this warmer air to move in. But at day 10, it's not looking great. It's looking cold and unsettled. So a bit of a backtrack here from the models. We thought it was trending towards something a bit warmer and drier, but latest runs, GM and the GFS, are definitely going more towards something a bit cooler and a bit more unsettled. You can see that just from these lighter blues. So not ridiculously cold, but a good few degrees below average, making it feel chilly, stronger winds, cloud and rain. Really not all too good. Now, if we have a look at the ECMWF, it's a little bit more encouraging, but it's a bit of an anomaly compared to the GM and the GFS operationals today. But we do have to remember that they are one deterministic runs. So as we look at the ensembles, we can still have a generally different view to what those operational runs are showing. So we'll see that in a minute. But the ECMWF high pressure continue to build in towards this weekend after that brief area of low pressure, and you can see the low pressure out in the Atlantic does put strain on it and does probably bring further fronts through for a time. But as we head towards day 10, we actually do keep that high over the top of us or just to our east. Definitely is coming under more strain today, but is staying in control with those lows remaining more around Iceland and Greenland. And it does mean cool air could push it for a time, but we do see perhaps some brief, quite warm southerly flows for a few days here or there. Again, could produce conditions around that sort of mid to high teens point. You can see there sort of 15, 16 degrees locally, probably a couple of degrees warmer. So we'll have to very much keep an eye on that. But east of the EF still showing hope for a bit more warmer, drier weather, but equally it has got more of a low pressure influence, just not dominating anywhere near as much as the GFS and the GM had. If you look at the ensembles, they are definitely still reflective of more of a drier sort of pattern, generally around average, sort of not deviating much above or below over the next few weeks, very much sticking to that 1981-2010 mean. It's one of the closest sort of ensemble periods I've seen these last few days and these upcoming few weeks, for where the ensembles have really stuck towards that 1981-2010 mean. It is still looking pretty dry out of the 12, but there is an increasing signal of some precipitation. Nothing huge, but definitely suggestive that the high pressure could break down, unfortunately. Again, we're not seeing any huge upwards deviation or downwards deviation in the upper air temperatures, so still generally around average for the time of year. It's just one of those muddled pictures where it's all going to be decided on the pressure levels. And again, if we do have a look at the sea level pressure, you can see there is a bit of a split after the 11th or 12th, some down to 1,010 millibars and below, but more, I'd still say, around that 1,020, 1,030 millibars. You can see the operational run there is below the majority of the ensembles. So I definitely would side still for more of a high pressure trend, but we will have to see. Again, if you look at the 2 meter temperatures, they're not looking all too exceptional, but if we did see something warmer or drier, we could be expecting maybe 16 to 20 degrees towards the middle of the month. But again, we'll have to keep an eye on that. And if we do just finish by looking at the ECMWF ensembles, you can see definitely on the slightly warmer and drier trend here. Again, still precipitation long term, but for considering there are 50 ensemble members here, that's not too much precipitation, and definitely more average to above average here from the ensemble members, indicating perhaps a higher chance of something a little bit warmer. And again, if we have a look at the sea level pressure, again, definitely suggesting something still relatively high in pressure, around that 1,020 millibars point. But again, a few millibars lower than that, down towards 1,010, and less than that, we would be creeping in more showers and generally lower pressure. So we are close to lower pressure, but still would say we're on the side more of high pressure from the latest ensemble runs, but they could, as I said, be trending more towards that lower pressure range. We'll have to see. We do normally see wobbles when it comes to different sort of changes and different sort of patterns, but this could be quite a big wobble here between something a bit warmer and drier perhaps, and just continue the settled sunnier weather, and something a bit more unsettled and horrible like we have had through most of March, but really hoping that we would see something a bit more of an improvement for April. We've seen a good few days earlier this week. We're going to see a good few more days towards the weekend, but I'm hoping for more of a sustained spell, perhaps even some warmer conditions, but we will have to see. Remember, it is the UK. We have got very weird climate sometimes, so we will have to see what happens. Some years we see 20 degrees in March and think that we're always going to see a sunny, warm spring, and other years like this year, we really are struggling to get much above 15 degrees, and we are looking towards the middle of April, and we're not looking likely to be breaking that sort of 15 to 16 degree barrier for at least another week or two, maybe towards the middle of the month if we did see that warmer, higher pressure to our south, but we will have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.